Welcome along to Around the World Neat Events, hashtag the conversation with me, Matt Lamb, and I'm joined today with Donald from Detroit. Donald, how are you?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Lovely to see you again. For considering we met probably under 8 months now, crazy times. And now we're in the midst of things do change. There's now a health pandemic, and now we're in the middle of a unknown time. So, Donald, I'll just get straight to it. Why don't you tell us all about you? Tell us about you, who you work for, what kind of events you're involved in, and where you're calling from today.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm here in Detroit, Michigan. What I do is I'm actually a marketing manager for Foot Locker Detroit. So my role encompasses a bit of social media, but it's mainly focused on creating activations and events inside of what we call a community store that we have on Detroit's east side. So sometimes those events are just community focused, like gift bags for back to school. Sometimes they're product focused, like we have a new sneaker coming out or something like that. And we do some things to kind of get people to rally behind and have fun around it as well, instead of just buying it online or coming into the store, buying it and leaving kind of thing. Is how do we elevate those experiences for our customers through events and through different activities within our store and just events in general around the city of Detroit.
So tell me about that community store and that community impact at the moment, due to the health pandemic. How has it changed? What actions are you taking from your store's point of view to help out the community in ways that 4 months ago you weren't?
A big component of what I do is social media as well. That's how we get the word out about product, things that we're doing, etc. Kind of thing. So we've had to shift a lot of our efforts to digital. Kind of thing. So one thing that we used to do at the store was this hip hop showcase called Imported from the D, which would showcase local rappers and hip hop artists with an in-store concert. They would literally perform inside of our store. We would set up a stage. It was awesome. They would get prizes for winning. They would get played on the radio after that, get a radio interview. So I was thinking about how can we bring that experience to social media, right? So I partnered with the host that we use for that on-air personality named DJ BJ from Detroit. And I was like, hey, what if we did this and instead of, imported from the D, it was imported from the crib, like imported from your house, kind of thing like that. So we made it a challenge, like an online challenge where you had to submit a freestyle, kind of thing. We picked the best, I think like 8 freestyles or whatever kind of thing. Then we invited them to join our Instagram live, so we had our host kind of DJ live from his kitchen, like he set up DJ equipment, lights and strobes and stuff from the kitchen. And then like the artists who kind of like did really good freestyles, they were able to join the live and like perform or spit a 16 bar verse kind of thing like that. And it was really engaging. So it showed like people still want to like rally and gather and they still want that connection of what they would normally get from events. So right now it's really just finding ways to, bring that experience in a safe way, kind of thing. So it went really well. It was really fun. We had hundreds of people viewing it, kind of thing. Right. So it was awesome, but it's definitely a tough time right now. And it's been challenging, to kind of find out what we can do during this time, and still being sensitive to our messaging and, what we do put out on social media right now with so much going on.
So you want to be sensitive, but why do you think it's important to still be there for people in this time?
And so I think that while people need to stay informed and watch the news and see what's going on, we're still kind of stuck in our houses and our spaces, and we need to find ways to uplift each other, to still have fun, to still kind of normalize the things that we enjoyed before this, to help us look forward to what's going to happen after this, So it's been really important to me, especially with us having what we call a community store and a community based effort to continue that, like in some way, so it's still a business. We still have to push our product and things like that. Our store is still open online, kind of thing like that, but I wouldn't feel comfortable, suggesting to people to spend their money on sneakers or anything else if we're also not helping them or giving back to our community in the ways that we were before, So I think it's really important. So one thing that we did with Foot Locker Detroit about a week ago was that we we hired a locally owned restaurant to provide 300 lunches to a local hospital. So they were able to provide individual meals for over 300 employees, just as a thank you, for them. Something else I'm actually working on, I'll show you, is there's like a shortage of like medical supplies and things as well. So like face masks, for example. The plan is that I'm making about 500 face masks to just donate to local organizations that are like going above and beyond to help out the community right now. So there's like food banks in Detroit that are like providing groceries to families who don't have access or don't have money right now to buy their own. Other organizations who are giving like sanitary supplies and things like that. So all of these people that I'm just seeing organically in Detroit, like stepping up and doing things, we're trying to find ways that we can contribute to them.
Your heart very much is in Detroit, and when we met, it was building back up from the recession. Can we just talk very, very briefly about the Detroit before coronavirus, which was still building, and what your thoughts are with the Detroit of after?
Pre-COVID, during our, kind of resurgence and things coming back, I think it had a lot to do with population. It had to do with people coming into our downtown core and jobs being provided down in that area now, kind of thing that led to us being able to open more restaurants and businesses, industries, have events and things like that, because now there's people to go to them and patronize them. What I think will happen post this, when we do open back up, I think it's going to be slow. But I do think that it's going to grow, because what I've been seeing, like, people have started to find ways to bring their business digital, to keep their businesses going, to keep engaging their followings and their customer base and things like that. I do think that, unfortunately, a lot of smaller businesses that just don't have the longevity to, or the finances to go 2-3 months without business may shutter. Like, no business, big or small, can continue to pay employees without an income, kind of thing. But it's obviously hitting those smaller businesses even harder. One thing I do know about Detroit is that it's a resilient city. There's been riots in the 60s, there's been economic decline in, the 2000s, but I have no doubt that Detroit will, do what it does best and just like get up when being knocked down.
So what's your thoughts then for moving forward with the events that you do? Where do you think they're going to go in the next year? How are you going to facilitate the mindset change of the consumer?
I always say that, like, for me personally, that I'm a person first, before like my job or my businesses or anything else that I do, so I approach everything else with the passion of being a person. So I try to think about how I feel outside of what I'm tasked with, so my assumption and my goal really is to kind of just roll with what I feel like our city needs, kind of thing. So some of the first things that I kind of want to do are just more kind of like celebratory moments, like, hey, like, you guys might be able to come into the store and get discounted product, or, get another free meal or mask or whatever kind of thing on us, kind of thing. I think post-COVID is going to look really similar to right before COVID. I think there's going to be like, hey, maybe the cap is 200 people, kind of thing. I think that for capacity of events, I think that small things like that may still kind of weigh in on what we can do, kind of thing. So it might be us having smaller scale events and building up to the bigger things that we were doing before, to give people time to get a little more comfortable and acclimated to whatever our new normal kind of ends up being.
The social media strategies have stepped up, but they've stepped up for the last 2 months. Can they sustain another 8-10 months, for talking's sake?
So my personal opinion is absolutely not. I think that physical connections are something that we innately want and need, then also I think just the mental capacity and attention span of people dies down over time. Like, social media, even before COVID, it goes in flux. There are times where like everybody's on social media. There are times where it's died down. I would say in the last 2 or 3 weeks, when DJs taking over live kind of became like a really big thing, that first week it was huge, thousands of engagements, thousands of viewers. And now it's so normal that people are, even though it's only been a week or two, that people are like, they're still watching them, but it's kind of like, okay, like the viewership has went down a lot. The engagement has went down a lot. And this is still, people are still at home, you know what I'm saying? They're tired of the same thing. So I think that it's on you as a creative or as a brand or as an event coordinator to try to innovate, you know, and think of ways to make yours more dynamic. Like, hey, like if you're gonna go on here, you know, what's the call to action? Or like we did a live with Foot Locker Detroit and we did a sneaker cleaning tutorial, but instead of just having like a guy cleaning shoes, he's talking to the product. We had a guest come on and we had them talk about their favorite sneaker. We created dynamic to it. We did giveaways on it, you know, like, hey, like if you answer a trivia question about sneakers, you could win a gift card, you know, kind of thing like that. We found ways to make it like, one, I'm going to watch because I might be able to win something just from watching it. But now that I'm here, I'm actually in tune with what's going on. And it's the same thing that you would do if you had an event in real life. You would try to think of ways to like, how do I bring people in? How do I continue to make people excited and want to come to what I'm doing? You do the same thing on social media, you know, or through live or through these mediums. But I do think that is limiting in the scope of what you can do. You know, it's a front facing camera, you know, kind of thing. I can only do things in the scope of where you can kind of see me, you know, so it's limiting, you know, but I think finding ways to just up the engagement and get people to like really want to be in that space with you, even if it is digitally.
I know that you're very much involved in, you know, and you know a lot about the art scene. How do you think these scenes are actually very important to people's mental health and mindset for moving forward?
At home, you know, I think that inevitably we're gravitating toward the things that we're passionate about, which is art, which is music, which is sneakers for people like myself, you know. So I think that is incredibly important. And I think that those industries will have to kind of pivot. I've been seeing like really cool things on social media, like art battles where different artists are like showing their work together and just talking through it. And people are really engaging with that, you know, kind of thing. Or people, you know, DJs sharing music, or there's a photography battle where two photographers are going to be showing their work, you know, kind of thing, like, you know, piece by piece, you know. So I think it's dope to see, you know, all these different industries try to find a way to continue to be creative, you know, and have fun with it. You know, and I just think that's going to make it even more exciting when, you know, we get beyond this. But I think it also creates a mindset of like, how do we engage with people when we can't physically engage with people, you know? So is that a digital gallery? Is that a digital event? Is that a Zoom call, a house party call, you know, different things like that, you know? So I think it's going to force some innovation in regard to like the events industry. And I think just seeing how people have just gathered and replied to social media strategies and things like that just tells us a lot, you know, kind of thing. So I think that the creators are going to do what they do best, and they're going to create and innovate.
That's all my questions asked.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say, you know, to, you know, people who are, you know, creatively inclined, whether they're artists, whether they're, like I said, if they're in the events industry, whatever, if you're able to create right now, awesome. Do that. You know, if you're in the mindset to do that, go, you know, that's sweet. But I think if this is hitting you in a way to where, because I've struggled creatively with certain things, even though I'm still working from home and things like that too, you know, so it's like I'm not necessarily in the headspace that I'm usually in to make these things. And I think for me, that's because my ideas come from me going out and getting those experiences and bringing them back and being inspired, you know. And sometimes it's hard to do that for sitting in the house for 2 weeks at a time, you know, kind of thing. So I think just, you know, just be honest with yourself and your emotions and your feelings. And, you know, we're all going to come out of this together. So just stay positive and wash your hands.
Keywords of 2020. Donald, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for taking part in hashtag the conversation. And I think one thing I do want to say is you're probably someone that, you know, from the events industry, you probably wouldn't be asked to do this type of interview. So thanks for doing it, because I think there's a lot of insight that you've gave there that for me is enlightening and inspiring, and hopefully for other people gets a glimpse into what it's like in Detroit, but also what it's like as a creative person for the future.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.